They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
A fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 5. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, doubled a 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
Unbiased, Miles Davis.
Welcome to another edition of Unbiased with Miles Davis, where we look at the stories behind the game of lawn bowls in New Zealand. I'm joined today by Graeme Rees. And Graeme, like we do with everyone, we always have to start at the beginning. Where did you make your first appearance in the world, and where did you grow up?
Oh, hi, Miles. Yeah, I'm Kent born and bred and brought up in Christchurch. And 58 years, I'm still sitting in Canterbury, which isn't a bad place to be.
Whereabouts in Christchurch were you born?
St George's Hospital, which is Penui Road, for those who are familiar with the geography in Christchurch.
Is it still going? Is it still a working hospital, or has it been turned into a McDonald's?
No, it certainly is. And my sister's actually a nurse there, so...
Oh, that's quite cool. Was she born there as well?
Oh, I think so. Yes, yeah, I would imagine she would have been. So, yeah.
Oh, blimey, you should know where your siblings are born. But don't worry, Graeme, I'll forgive you. Perhaps they won't. So whereabouts did you go to primary school?
I went to primary school at Papanui Primary. And, yeah.
What sort of school was that? How, can you remember much about it?
Oh, yeah, I can remember heaps. It was went from Prim 1 up to Standard 4, and there were a few hundred kids there from memory. So, yeah. Was it
a good experience for you, or did you sort of just hang out for the weekends?
No, it was a fantastic experience, and I've still got a mate now, believe it or not, who we started school with, and we see each other regularly. So, yeah,
that's quite cool to keep that sort of relationship going for those many years. So, once you leave primary school, where do you go to college?
Went to intermediate Casebrook, which was around the corner, the closest intermediate, and then I went to Papanui High. So a lot of Papanuis feature in my learning career. So, yeah.
And what sort of school was it? Was it a good school? I mean, there's obviously the Christchurch boys and all those sort of schools down there. Where does it sort of rank?
Yeah, it was better than Christchurch boys. No, it was a great school. I lived actually across the road, so it was a walk through Papanui Domain, and there I was. I landed at school in the morning and wandered home at night time. But yeah, so it was.
What sort of student were you, Graeme?
Oh, I was probably average. Left school with UE, and a bit. Probably went to school for sport more than the learning side at some stages. So yeah.
Do you know something? I think nearly every person I've spoken to in this series enjoys sport more than the academic side. I'm just wondering how New Zealand's managed to survive in a business environment. But it also explains why New Zealand's so good at sport, because everyone's really into it. What sports did you really enjoy at school, and were there any that you did really well in?
Well, I might take you back, actually, pre-high school. I lived across the road from Papanui Domain. They played rugby league, so I kicked off playing rugby league when I was 7, and watched a lot of softball across the park as well. It was the big softball park in the South Island, so I was very, very lucky just to be able to wander across and look at all these sports. But playing league was my first sojourn into sport, and funnily enough, league looked after us really well. We got a trip to Auckland, saw Joe Caron play his first professional game of rugby league all those years ago, and then I left league when I went to high school, like most people do, and took up rugby and cricket. And I'm a bit of a cricket tragic, but yeah, I listened to your Graham Doreen podcast last week, and I laughed because we're very similar in respect to not only the Coach of the Year awards, but I opened the batting with a straight bat like Graham did, and I played first 15 rugby, and I was a yappy halfback. So, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there you see, there's a lot of connection. Maybe it's something that the yappiness leads to coaching, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I actually did a gig with Joe Caron about 15 years ago.
Yep.
now with Joe in Hamilton. So a minor connection there, and I'm sure we'll have more as we continue chatting. Rugby league, though, Christchurch's got a great history in rugby league. It's produced some fantastic players.
Yeah, Papua were one of the strongest clubs back in the day and continue to be so. So, yeah.
Did you cop any stick from your mates for not playing rugby union?
No, it was quite funny actually because when I switched to rugby union, I was probably the only one in the team that could tackle. So rugby league certainly taught me a skill that no rugby player had back then. So no, I think they quite the opposite. They sort of appreciated me coming across.
Now, when you get UE and you leave school, do you use that UE to go to U, or do you go to work?
No, I definitely went to work, and I ended up at the Housing Corporation. So my father had a good friend who worked for the Royal Bank, which was closely associated to the Housing Corp, and he got me in, and yeah, worked for those guys for 13 years, and sort of at the time it was a state housing. I'd been a credit controller all my life, and we collected debt from state tenants, but also had a switch into the lending side. And we had 25% of the lending market way back then, and so it was a busy environment, very exciting, and something I reflect back on and thought, gee, couldn't have done better when I left school.
Must be the actual. I mean, the lending side would have been, quite an enjoyable part of it. The credit side, perhaps not so much. What do you remember about trying to get credit out of often people who wouldn't have any money at all?
Yeah, it was certainly a challenge, and there was people in serious housing need, and they were, dependent on the state, and so it was a different set of skills if you're trying to collect money out of, accountants, which I do these days, which we might talk about shortly. But yeah.
So when you leave the Housing Corp, and that was a massive organisation, like you say, it had probably a lot more contribution to society than they perhaps do nowadays, although that may be changing. Where did you go from there?
I picked up a job with BOC. I got made redundant. It was part of the Rogernomics era, and so off I went to find another job. Luckily enough, to a role with BOC, which was similar, credit control, and spent a similar time there. And I'll just tell you a wee story about BOC. There was a sales guy called Hutchie who gave me a Liverpool shirt. Not quite sure where he got it from, but it was an old one. And I have fond memories of BOC, but especially this guy called Hutchie, who was a sales guy in Auckland, who we built up a bit of a rapport with. So
yeah. Unfortunately, he's a good friend of mine, and that part. I mean, he's a lovely chap. Apart from that unsavoury connection to Liverpool, he didn't manage to sway you, did he, to support them?
No, it was long before then I was swayed. My wife's a Liverpudlian, or a Scouser, as you may know them as, and so it's a part of a religion in my household, Liverpool. So yeah.
Right. Well, that'll answer one question I was going to ask you later on, but we'll get back to that. And after BOC, where did you go then?
Yeah. So I got another redundancy. Actually, it wasn't Rogernomics that time. It was just a restructure of the company, and I've ended up at MYOB. So that's where I sit today, and as a credit controller as well, and had a team leader role for 10 years here, and another exciting path or chapter of my career is MYOB.
Have you got any qualifications? Like financial qualifications?
No, I haven't actually. No, I haven't got an accounting degree. I work with a lot of accountants. I've probably learned more from them than getting any qualification over the years. But yeah,
it's often the way that if you actually get to the coalface, it's better.
Yeah,
it's better than sitting in a classroom. Now, people would say, "Oh, accountants, they're really boring." Do you find your work and your colleagues boring?
I've got to be careful with this response, Miles. I'm sitting next to about 5 of them today. No, not at all. They're probably introverted types in the main, but they are very good at their role. And no, I couldn't use the word boring there.
What would you say, Graeme? That accountants, they look after money, they look up at numbers. Are you good at managing your money? Would people say that you're good at managing your money, or are you good at managing other people's money but not so good on your own?
Well, I often refer to the Minister of Finance at home, so that might give you a bit of a clue, which isn't myself. But I'm not bad. Yeah.
You're not bad. You're just not trustworthy enough to hold the purse strings.
No, I won't mention that I've invested in gold shares, and so that might give you an indication of that might not come to fruition.
I'd rather you did that than Bitcoin. But anyway, we'll move onwards and upwards from there. You mentioned your other half. Tell us about how you met.
Yeah, we actually went to high school together, but we didn't know each other. Karen used to come and watch us play first 15 rugby, and but we did eventually meet at the Housing Corporation, and that's where we met, and the rest is history, may we say.
Well, no, but how did the first date come about? Did you pluck up courage? Did she get a friend to say, "My friend likes you"? What happened?
Well, I suppose I can recall it to the day that it was my sister's wedding, and I was looking for somebody to partner me, and Karen and I had been friends for 12 months prior to that, and kicked around in a group, and so I plucked in.
Magn. And have you made her an honest woman, or are you still living in sin?
No, we were married in 1989, so 30 plus years later. Yeah.
Fantastic! Oh, congratulations on that. And did you? I was just wondering, you go to the sister's wedding; those are quite emotional occasions, and you can get a bit swept away with it. Was that sowing the seeds for later on for you guys to get married, or was it a long time after that?
No, I think probably 6 months, 12 months later, we probably tied the knot in February '89. So yeah.
You're not telling me you can't remember when your wedding anniversary is, are you, Graeme?
I had to look under the coffee table actually to see the date the other day. No, I didn't. No, 25th of '89.
And what about offspring?
Yeah, I've got one lad. Owen's just turned 20, so yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Is he following after the old man on the sporting front, or is he more of an academic?
No, he's very much following after myself. He's doing a coaching degree at Canterbury University, and loves his cricket. Plays third grade for St Albans, and coaches the Canterbury University Prems women's team.
Fantastic!
Yeah, and I've just twisted his arm to play in the national peers with us at Christmas time, so in bowl. So that'll be his first hit out on the bowling green as a member of Burnside. So. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. That'll be a very special moment, I'm sure, for both of you.
Cool.
Maybe Dad will appreciate more at the time, but hopefully in time the boy will appreciate what a special moment it was. In terms of cricket, who did you? Because I understand you're a big cricket tragic. Who did you play for in Christchurch?
Yeah, I played for Old Collegians, and it was in the day of Paul McEwen, Vaughan Brown, Richard Leggett. They had a great senior side. So I played predominantly second grade. I got a couple of games of seniors, but not to any extent. But had some great memories of some great characters over the years I played with. I was fortunate to play with a guy called Gerard Stokes. And
yes, he just passed away not long ago.
Unfortunately, old Stokesy. But so we had a lot of fun in the second grade at Old Coles, and we're a fairly competitive sort of unit as well. So
yeah, people. I don't think. I mean, a lot of those senior grades are very, very competitive. Even if you're playing seconds or thirds in there, people and have long associations with it. I actually, I don't know if you know a guy called Ray Jones, who used to play a lot of cricket.
He surely was he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah, you see, well done there. I actually had my 30th birthday with him and another friend of ours who ended up teaching at Nelson College. We all turned 30 within 9 days of each other, and we had it at the East Shirley Cricket Club rooms.
Oh, nice and Bearwood Park there. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a great little spot, and yeah, I've despite the stick I give to Christchurch, I've spent a lot of time down there, and I've got a lot of friends there, and I really enjoy the place. Now, when do you first start getting to bowls?
Oh, gee, I've been playing. So it was 1977, 78. I went to my first nationals in Dunedin. So, yeah, long time.
So who got you into it? Was it your dad or?
Yeah, my mum and dad both played, and so yeah, my grandfather. So I was going a lot up, and they said, "Oh, you better join." I was 14 at the time, and I got in, believe it or not, by one executive vote because they thought I was too young. How times have changed, and so of course I went out and beat all the old fellas, and so they didn't like that, I don't think. But I played cricket right up till I was 26. Didn't play junior bowls or anything like that, but yeah, went along to tournaments. They were ahead of their day, really. Morris Nav, a wee club that I played for, they played a lot of mixed triples, mixed fours on a Sunday, and had a lot of fun with mum and dad, and special memories. Yep.
I can well imagine that. I can well imagine. So how did you go at your first nationals? Can you remember?
At a club called McAndrew Bay, which is a wee club right around the coastal place in Dunedin there. And this fella, I had no idea who he was, but there was a crowd rocking in, and they said they're all on my fella, I don't think, but he beat me something like 21-14 in singles. But I always recall it was a beautiful spot, this McAndrew. Yeah, so that's my first recollection of the Nationals back way back in 70. I was 77, 78, I think.
So can you remember who it was you were playing?
No, I can't, to be honest, no.
Oh, I bet you do. You sound like you're fibbing to me, Graeme, and you know it. But you think if you say it, you'll get into trouble. But that's all right. That could be our secret. We'll move on. we'll move on, Graeme. So when do you first start? Feeling blimey, this is the game for me.
Oh, straight away. I think bowls is a sport where you just. I loved it because what I found with cricket is I'd sit on the sideline, I'd get out first ball, I'd score for 2 days and umpire for 2 days, and I thought, I'll go and take this bowls lark up seriously now when I was about 26. And probably then I suppose you could say that I ended up at Burnside, played with some amazing players initially. So that's really when the passion really kicked in.
So how have you gone? I understand you've won a few club titles, some centre titles. So give us a little mini précis of your achievements.
Yeah, sure. I've run roughly 8 club titles, I suppose, mainly 4s, 4 or 5. Always in a fairly strong team, which helped. I won the pairs, I've won the triples, but one thing I've never won at Burnside is the singles, and got reasonably close last year. Got another crack this year. And on the centre scene, I won the centre pairs with a guy called Pat Bonham. That was quite a few years ago, but we're playing centre triples this year to sort of reminisce with his son playing with us. So looking forward to that.
That's a pretty decent achievement there. Now, people know you for your coaching, Graeme. How did you actually get into that? What made you think, Barney, I wouldn't mind doing a bit of the coaching?
There was no old now, I suppose, Len Sear, and I always recall going to his lounge and putting a mat down on his lounge, and that's where it started. And I was very fortunate way back in the early 2000s to have Stu Butter as my mentor, and around about 2002, I think, and we were fortunate to win the inter-centre, and I thought this coaching lark's easy. So I carried on and found that it wasn't as easy. You didn't win the inter-centre every year, and so, but fond early memories of getting into it. And Stewie was a big help to us early on.
How do you develop your coaching? How do you look at improving it?
Yeah, I've been very lucky over the years. 2006, I got involved with Dave Edwards and Janice McKenna, and we took a New Zealand development squad to New South. And at that time, there was personal development thrown at me by Bowls New Zealand. I was lucky enough to pick up a prize. Took me to Brisbane, and I spent a week in Brisbane with the Australian Institute of Cricket at the Allan Border Field. And believe it or not, I spent about most of the week with a guy called Terry Jenner, who was Shane Warne's coach. that was learning from another sport, so that's part of that development. The other part of that scholarship was a trip to Malaysia with League and Dave and Janice, and so we went over to Malaysia because we wanted to learn. They'd only been in the sport 10 years, but they'd won a couple of gold, silver medals, and so we thought, what are they doing that we could perhaps do ourselves? Lots of learnings in that area, but also leadership and courses over those years. So I suppose you mentioned to me what I had done in terms of qualifications. Well, a lot of qualifications sort of occurred around 2007 one day, but you never stop learning, and I'm still continuing to develop myself. And yeah.
It's fascinating that you gain so much talking to coaches of other sports. I was talking to Nolene Tauroa, or Dame Nolene Tauroa, I've got to be right, just a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying exactly the same thing, that there's a lot, especially in New Zealand, there's a lot of communication and sharing of ideas and knowledge between different sports. So do you find that in New Zealand, Graeme?
Yeah, we're pretty good at it. And just on Dame Nolene, MYOB sponsor the Silver Ferns. So she gave a presentation at work, and I was very taken by her as a coach and what she had to say. So yeah, we're always learning from others, and yeah.
Yeah, she's a very impressive woman. I feel that she could probably coach any sport going and be pretty successful.
You're not wrong there. Yeah.
Now, talking of that, see, because what do you feel, Graeme, and I suppose it might depend on the individual, is the key thing in coaching, or the key asset to have? There's obviously the technical side of things, but then there's the person management, the mental skill side of it. What do you think, that if you had to distill it down for you, the most important aspect?
We coach people, and we obviously coach the sport as well, but first and foremost comes the people. So it's unlocking that potential and trying to make them the best that they can be. So.
How tough is it to establish a relationship with a player that perhaps you've never worked with before?
I think the most exciting thing about coaching is that everyone's different, and therefore, it's. I don't think I have any trouble in that area, but it's what makes coaching exciting is that you make great friends, and you also challenge people and try and get the best out of them, and so there's a balancing act between that relationship. But I wouldn't give back what I've done for quids in regard to the coaching career I've had.
How do you find it affects your time to be able to bowl yourself, and does it impact on that, or have you managed to balance the two?
Funny you should say that. I called up with a mentor of mine who lives in Surrey this morning, and I spoke to him about my time management this season, looking at what I've got on my plate in regard to coaching and playing, and said to him the work-life balance is key, and so it's very important to plan. Having said that, I've just planned a very busy season, so both playing and coaching, but believe that I can work that through, and so but it's great to have somebody to work with in that regard. So yeah.
What about the Minister of Finance? What's she got to say about the amount of time? I mean, you're saying you've got the balance right. Would she agree with you?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, she would. But sometimes it's, what are you up to this weekend? And I'm playing bowls, and she'll go, what about this? And so, negotiation.
Now, Graeme, as a coach, you've obviously you've progressed over this, and not only did, I think 3 years ago you won Coach of the Year, and again this year Summerset Bowls Coach of the Year. What does that mean to you? How does it make you feel?
Oh, it's very special. You don't certainly take those awards for granted. And, a big shout out to the players I worked with, especially 3 years ago. We had a great run at Asia Pacifics on the Gold Coast, and Shannon McElroy, Gary Lewis, and worked with those guys, and they won 2 golds. And so therefore, and also in that year we won the Canterbury men won the Inter Centre, which I was involved with. So got to pinch myself sometimes as to who I've worked with, and I just going back a wee bit before then, I suppose 2008 World Bowls here in Christchurch. Worked with an amazing team of names like Edwards, Smith, Sims, Khan, Lawson, Meyer, Gervin, Todd, Forsyth. We won 6 out of 8 medals, and special memories there. And so therefore, certainly the athletes are the ones that, without them, you do nothing as a coach, and they'd argue sometimes you do nothing anyway. But
Bowls gives you this great opportunity, doesn't it, to work with these sort of people, and I can't think of too many sports where Joe Blow can turn up a nationals and play against the likes of Shannon McElroy.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, played Peter Bellis in singles once. Remember that fondly? Don't remember the score that fondly.
But I'll tell you, I'll ring Peter up, and I'm sure he's got it knocked down there. My guessing, it was quite painful. I think actually John Macbeth played Shannon McElroy at one of his early nationals.
Isn't that tremendous? Isn't it? No other sport you can do that, I don't think. And yeah,
it is magnificent. Well, congratulations, Graeme, on that. What have you got lined up? Obviously, the Blackjacks at the moment are in a bit of a abeyance. What have you got lined up at the moment in the near future?
Yeah, we're really busy at the moment. We're preparing for Commonwealth Games next year, so I'm working with Andrew Kelly, Taylor Bruce, and Bruce Wakefield here in Christchurch, and we rock up on the croquet green on a regular basis. And Mike Kernahan's running some camps around the country, so things are full on in that area as we plan and prepare for next July. And outside of that, I'm the coach development lead for Bowls New Zealand. So I coach the coaches throughout the country. We've just halfway through a performance coach, 18 coaches. And so that's going really well also. And that's probably attributed to the last Coach of the Year award I've managed to pick up in that coach development space, which really enjoy.
What's it like coaching coaches? Do they turn up and think they know it all? Are they much tougher than players?
It's no different, really. You're coaching people, and it's a different type of way of going about it. I've been fortunate through Sport New Zealand to do a coach development and coach trainer course, which has been a superb year or two, and over the last 3 or 4 years, and you learn a lot around other sports and how they're coaching their coaches, and I'm doing the same in bowls.
Oh, it sounds magnificent. It sounds like you're a busy time ahead. Let's hope that that COVID settles down now, so that we can get the Black Jacks over to Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games, and hopefully pick up some nice shiny gold medals. Now,
I'm sure we will. Yep.
Graeme, what we do to finish off is what we call 6 and out. So I'll ask you some questions, just nice simple ones. You probably heard a podcast, so you know what's coming. Have you got a pet?
No, I haven't at the moment. I've just lost my cat Carter last year, unfortunately. But so we're petless at the moment.
I'm always a bit hesitant when I ask that question. There's a couple of people who've had sort of bereavements in the pet side. How old was the cat?
Well, I haven't had much luck with pets, actually, because Carter was 10 and Alfie before him was 10. But I also had a Finnish Spitz, which was a dog who lived to a ripe old age of 17, 18.
Yeah, that's a great age great age for a dog. 10, not so good for a cat.
No.
So I'd maybe get a dog next time.
You've been talking to my son.
My kid's got 2 of them. One of them's buggered off, and I know the other one's going to go soon. I'm going to get left with both the dogs. But anyway, what sports team? Have you got a favourite sports team? I know I don't want to ask this question, but
it starts with C. Crusaders. Definitely the Crusaders.
Oh, the Crusaders, above Liverpool. Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
That's only slightly more palatable to me than as a Wellington boy than Liverpool. Just asking you, have you been to Anfield? Have you ever been over?
Yes, 2 years ago we went to Liverpool and didn't get in because Karen's relations were with Evertonians, and they said, we're not going into that scum place. I think that's the word they used. And so we ended up down the road at Goodison and saw where their members stand was, but fond memories of a couple of years ago.
Magnificent. Unfortunately, there's a lot of those sort of mixed marriages, shall we say, or mixed families over there with Everton and Liverpool fans. What about an individual sports star? Have you got a favourite or someone you really admire?
Yeah, I must admit, had a bit of think about this, and I went to the MCG Boxing Day Test, New Zealand, Australia, a couple of years ago, and Kane Williamson would have to be my fan at the moment, and just take my hat off to the Black Caps and what they're achieving.
I got a signed bat off of him, which I gave to my kids, and they destroyed it in the back garden. My older ones did the same with a signed ball that Shane Warne gave me, but so I'm never giving the kids anything ever again.
I got a couple Sir Richard Hadley signed for me, so I'll shoot it up for you.
Oh, well, he's a good cantab as well, so he'll look after it. Interesting you mentioned Kane Williamson. I think he's undoubtedly going to be, until someone comes along in future generations, going to be our greatest batsman ever, as far as New Zealand is concerned. But I've got to say that MCG, what did you think when he won the toss and put Australia into bat?
Oh, it was okay when we got that first wicket, but then it dried up.
I thought that was a bad move. I think that set the tone for that series, unfortunately, and probably the only mistake I think that I can he's made.
Never forget walking in there, Miles, and there was thousands of Aussies, but there was millions of Kiwis, and this Aussie wag says, "Is there anyone left in New Zealand?" That was on the first day.
People, it just shows how big it was. It had been a long time between drinks, and a magnificent occasion, unfortunately, apart from the result. Now, music. Are you much of a muso? Have you got, who would you like to go and see if you could?
Well, actually not, but music does run in my family, and so Take That and Patience is something that would be one of my favourite songs. And we went to a Take That concert in Wellington. Also saw Robbie Williams up there too, funnily enough. But so that's music. But
would you like me to edit this out so that none of your friends hear that you're a Take That fan, Graeme?
No, I'd love to Take That. It'd be probably the best concert I've ever been to in Wellington. Anywhere actually. It was amazing. So yeah.
Well, no, fair enough. If you want to be proud and come out as a Take That fan, I've got no issue. I just give you the option. What about movies, Graeme? Do you go to the movies much?
Oh, I've got to get to James Bond. Gee, that'll be brilliant. So yeah,
you're a big Bond fan.
Yeah, a bit of action, and so really.
Who's your favourite Bond?
Oh, Daniel Craig probably. Oh no, you've got to go back to Sean Connery. He was the best ever, but that Daniel Craig fella's not bad at the moment.
Yeah, I love Sean Connery. Daniel Craig's quite surly. I mean, he's good, but he's quite surly, isn't he?
Sean Connery's probably,
There's not much humour with Daniel Craig. He doesn't laugh very much. Right, finally, we're going to put you on death row like we do with all our guests. Yep. Not literally, but figuratively. And I want to know what your final meal would be.
Fresh crayfish.
Oh, yeah. Any particular sauce on it? A Mornay or a...
No, just straight out the sea. I went to Kaikoura years ago for a New Year and never forget the fresh crayfish. So, I love fish. So, yeah.
That is a magnificent meal, albeit occasionally rather expensive. But I suppose if you got mates in Kaikoura, which is just up the road from you lot, then maybe it's not as expensive as it is for us people stuck up here in Auckland. Graeme Rees.
Just to finish with Miles, one guy I haven't mentioned is Kaushik Patel. So I've got to get Kaushik in. He set up the high performance plan back in 2019 when I got the energy to get back into the level that I am now. So yeah, big shout out to Kaushik.
Yeah, but hasn't he deserted us though?
What was that, sorry?
Hasn't he deserted us?
Oh yes, he has. He's gone to my other passion, cricket. So yes.
Yeah, treacherous dog. You see. So anyway, well, you mentioned him in a good way. I'll give him a bit of stick anyway from that. But Graeme Rees, Summerset, Coach of the Year 2021. Thank you so much for your time and all the best for the future and especially next year in Birmingham.
Hey, thanks very much, Miles.
They were rampaging along, won their first two games. They've lost their last two, but they could have probably won both of them. Fantastic looking facility there in the deep south. I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight. From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or from bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 5? Yes and no. Yes and no. paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6-1. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it? Unbiased, Miles Davis.